And a very good afternoon to everybody as you join us here in PPMA land. I always seem to trip over saying PPMA. It never gets easier for me, and I say it hundreds of times a week. It's really odd. Anyway, thank you for joining us. And for those who I've not met before, because there's some new names to me here in our guest list, I'm Leatham Green. I'm the Executive Director of PPMA, and I'm running a series this autumn for PPMA around sparkle and learn. I thought as these kind of days started to get a little bit darker, and the rain was coming in, we needed something to bring a bit of sparkle into our life. And also on the back of our huge success with the PPMA conference, we're going to bring in some of our award winners and showcase the best practice that they've been up to over the past 12 months and do a bit of sharing. And then also some of our sponsors. I've got some fantastic stuff which has been happening over the past 6 months and also coming forward into the autumn period. And they're coming to share their thoughts and views as well, which is the kickoff for this series. And I'm thrilled that we've got Rebecca Watson, who is going to be sharing with us all stuff around coaching. Rebecca is one of the internationally respected coaches and authors around leadership, and works across all sectors. So she'll be drawing upon her expertise both in public, private, and third sector. And also, Rebecca is an associate of one of our new PPMA sponsors, which is Interplicity. And Rebecca is just about to kick off her very first online leadership development program around coaching. It's called Leading a Coaching Culture. And that's really difficult to say, and I haven't even had a gin. Yeah. So, Rebecca, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here and nice to see everybody. Hi.
It's great to be able to introduce somebody new to the PPMA community. And one question I've been asking all of my guests over the past 6 months is just to share something about yourself, which has kind of been surprising. And it doesn't matter what that is in terms of what you've learned about yourself during this period of coronavirus lockdown and unlocking. What's
Yes.
emerged for you?
Oh gosh. Well, my normal work was I'm coaching leaders around the world on Zoom anyway. So
Right.
actually, it was more like a snapshot of everyone else getting a snapshot of my life.
Right.
But I think my capacity to eat whole chocolate hobnobs, whole packets, has gone up. And I think, yeah, just my, what's been really interesting for me is if I'm working on something that I'm really interested in, I really love, then I don't miss the connection of being out in the world with people. But the minute I've stopped, I've just finished creating my course, which has been a labour of love. But when I finished it, I thought, right, I'm going to take a month off. And that was the most bored I've been and, unhappy because I didn't have anything to focus on and I couldn't go away. So, yeah, really interesting that I feel if I'm working on something I love, all's good. And the minute I'm not in COVID, I really missed the
Right.
connection with people.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And if you've got any questions for Rebecca as we progress through our conversation, just pop them into the chat and I'll pick them up. I'll watch out for any questions that you've got to post. And if you're listening to this on demand, that makes me sound as if I'm kind of really with it, isn't it? On demand, PPMA on demand. Also fire some questions through and I'll feed them into Rebecca, who'll be delighted to answer your questions. So the first question that we had for you, Rebecca, in terms of this world of lockdown, what have you noticed, if anything, in terms of the difference that people are bringing to the table to help, that they're working with you on, compared to kind of pre and post COVID and lockdown?
Yeah.
Anything that you've noticed there?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. Loads of things are different, of course. Some of the challenges are just personal challenges. How do I focus at home when I've got young kids? The dog, the cat walking across the keyboards in webinars. So that's been a major one for people, focusing, productivity, and having a difference between work and now not work. That boundary I think has become quite blurred. People are working longer hours because they're just starting work when they would have been going out to commute, but on the train maybe they might have been reading a book, or catching up with personal things. So that, and then with the leaders that I work with, definitely how to manage teams remotely. Some of the leaders I've already been working with for years with remote teams anyway, but now pretty much everyone is remote. So how do they keep everyone engaged and motivated has been a major thing. And how to rapidly adapt their working environment to what's needed now. So getting their services online for people. There's been huge change in lots of the organisations that I've been working with. That was change that was already wanting to come. It was like this was a good idea to put this online, but then it's suddenly been sped up. So how to manage rapid change, how to be adaptable, lots and lots of different things, different challenges. And then I think just how to manage morale, for all of us, that's been a big one. Managing anxiety, uncertainty, worrying about our jobs, that sort of thing.
So what kind of ideas have emerged from those people you've been working with in terms of potential solutions to some of those challenges they've faced?
Lots of the work that I do is energetic. So I get leaders to do a grounding exercise, which I do with them. So I get them to sit with their feet flat on the floor, take some deep breaths, hold their breaths. And it's probably something sort of a mindful practice, calming everything down so that they can actually allow the mind to clear, and then they can think more clearly of what this specific solution might be. Or often there isn't a solution right now and I don't know, and I have to just keep breathing and sit with that. So yeah, a lot of the work is really just all of us being able to stay connected to the body, keep grounded, and keep calm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great technique to encourage people to use, and of course something in this world, of course, certainly pre this use of technology, or being, kind of driving around, commuting, rushing from one place to the other, trying to get people to slow down for a moment. It's hugely challenging. And of course, the power and the impact that it can have, certainly on decision making and clarity of thinking, is really beneficial. But still, I know from my own experience of working with organizations how challenging that is now to get them to just stop and sit in silence and just listen to what's happening. It's hugely important. And certainly this weekend on Saturday, it's World Mental Health Day, and one of those key issues which has emerged right across society, and it's not just a UK thing, it's a worldwide thing about the impact on mental health on humans, and again, with leaders in particular, we kind of assume that on this hierarchical kind of ladder, these superheroes are not susceptible to kind of mental health challenges and being vulnerable and open with their colleagues. So what have you seen in terms of this kind of shift around the conversations with mental health and leaders?
Well, it's been really interesting because I'm a consultant with a company called Barrett Value Centre, and we specialise in cultural change programs for organisations. What they've done through COVID, they looked at all of the organisations that they could monitor, and they got all of the people in all those organisations to put in what their company's now valuing. So the shift in values, I think, across the board, and this isn't just public sector, I think this is private sector, not for profit. I think the shift has been away from revenues and profit and more towards actually caring for their people, well-being, mental health. Those sorts of values have been coming up through because of COVID, which is a great step in the right direction. And I think it's really been a highlight on our mental health. It's just highlighted for everyone that we are all susceptible. We're all able to get worried about the future. We're all able to get scared. And so I think what it's done is sort of highlighted mental health as an issue generally across the board. And the leaders that I'm working with, more and more, they're asking me questions like, how do I spot something? If somebody's going downhill, what are the signs? And that's the sort of thing that I've been sharing with them. Absenteeism obviously isn't really happening because people are already at home. So that would have been one of the key signs. So being able to spot and being able to have those honest conversations with your team, even as leaders, to encourage them to say, look, guys, I'm having a bad day. I didn't sleep well last night. I was worried. And how are you feeling? Just checking in at the beginning of the day. A lot more of that's been going on, I think.
Great. So when you kind of talk about the issue of mental health, bringing that up on the agenda and people being aware and mindful about it, then, the subject of today's conversation around productivity performance, many people, leaders in particular, start to get a bit uncomfortable to say, well, can I talk about this? And is that going to actually start to impact upon people's mental health feelings if I'm putting them under pressure?
Mm-hmm.
How has that conversation, if at all, shifted in terms of its kind of content and kind of emphasis during this time? Have you noticed?
I think you're right in lots of leaders are worried to press for productivity because they're feeling that people are already under so much pressure and stress. And I think there's a misunderstanding about productivity and how it's not actually linked to mental health. Because if you think about it, how you get a team to be productive is you engage with each of those people individually and you find out what really motivates them. I have leaders saying, how do I motivate my team? And I say, you can't motivate another person. All you can do is learn the sort of coaching skills that I'm teaching on my course to help each individual person identify what is it that I would really like to gain in this job while I'm here for the next 6 months or a year. It might be new skills, it might be, I'm interested in marketing actually, and I've got no background in it, but could I just do a bit of marketing, or could I just sit with this team? So it's about finding what everyone's really interested in themselves that's already going to motivate them, and helping them as the leader get a bit of all of that. So they're all coming into work, actually working on their own personal career goals, but at the same time they're working towards the team goal. And that's real engagement. That's how you get engagement, and therefore that's how you get high productivity. And actually, it's all completely linked to mental health, because even as I said myself at the very start, when I was engaged in doing something I loved, I didn't feel lonely or depressed or worried about COVID. I was just focused on doing, creating my course, which was for me a creative project that I've really loved to do. So I think that's the link, is good mental health is completely connected to high productivity.
So what kind of tips can you give to leaders and managers out there who are trying to get a handle in terms of what people are producing, what their output is, what their deliveries are, without kind of getting that sense of, it's somebody kind of imposing themselves, and, what can be, certainly some of the conversations we've heard over recent months from colleagues on these programs is where, you might have that intention of being very compassionate, kind, trusting. Suddenly they discover they're becoming quite transactional in terms of, their expectations and kind of performance tracking, which is being counterproductive. So what are the great things that you've seen in terms of tips to be able to create these opportunities for those conversations to happen in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question, Leatham, because it's going back to those difficult conversations, isn't it? The key, one of the key topics that I cover. I think the first thing is to be honest with yourself as a leader and say honestly, what am I really holding here? Am I actually a bit irritated because this person isn't producing the results as quickly or in the way that I think they should? Or am I genuinely coming from a place of caring for them and trusting that they're a great worker, they're going to get the results, but we just have to monitor this for, to measure where they're at. So the first is to be really honest. How am I actually really viewing this person? Because that comes across. However, whatever words we use, we can pick up as humans that this person is pushing us because they don't trust us to get the results. So that's really the internal work for the leader. And that's the work that I would work with my leaders on if they said, look, I just don't trust this person. And then it's about being able to have that honest, respectful, sort of adult to adult conversation to say, this is really hard for me to say, but I'm sitting here in my house anxious that maybe you're not going to get the results, and I actually really want to help you get those results, or help you decide that these aren't the results that you want to work in this organization to get. You know, it's about having the courage to have the honest conversation that we're not all robots. We might be in the wrong job, we might be in the wrong department, and we're not getting results because we want to come to work and be rubbish. We're not getting results because we haven't really understood that this isn't really the job for me. So again, it comes back to those coaching skills for the leader, to be able to have the trust in the relationship with someone where they can say, look, I really struggle with this bit. I love this bit of my job, but this is the bit that really drains my energy and I'm not very good at. And as a team, to find sort of creative solutions to that. You might find one person in the team loves this and another person hates it. Well, then, you know, can they swap? It doesn't have to be these rigid roles. So, yeah, I don't know if that's really answering the question.
Yeah, it's they're really useful points. One question that has come in, and it's kind of on the back of you know, again, much of the kind of the conversation we've had with PPMA members of certainly recent weeks, is this sense of people feeling really exhausted. You know, they've been right at the forefront of all of the challenges, you know, in terms of care, track and trace, testing, being responsive in terms of local communities. And of course, now we're just about to start this second wave, and for some parts of the country, they're already in kind of a major point of challenge and crisis. So what could you give out there to leaders to maintain or be able to generate this sense of positivity, you know, and creating a sense of positivity and hope?
Well, I think as a leader, whatever you want to generate in your team, you have to authentically have in yourself first. So if you want to be positive and hopeful, then write down the thoughts that you're running right now about yourself, your team, the future, what's coming up, and just take a look at those thoughts. Because if they're thoughts that are causing you to feel negative and despairing, whatever you say will just be words, and people in your team will know your truth at a deep level. So the real work is, what is it that I, as a leader, how can I story this that's what's coming up? How can I story this in a way that makes me feel positive and hopeful? One of the things might be that I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible for this, and this. I'm not responsible for saving lives. I'm just responsible for showing up my best self every day and doing my job. So you close down that circle of responsibility very tightly around you. And every day you wake up and you say, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to ground, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my best. And I'm not going to worry about anything else. So for people on the front line, that has been my advice to them, to say, you know, you are only paid to do that job, and take care of yourself so it's sustainable, because we don't need you getting sick as well. So those two pieces of advice: one is really be authentic as a leader. If you want to be positive and hopeful, then do some work on your own thoughts, because the thoughts that we're running create the actual state that we're in. We could say, look, we've done this before, we've gone through this already, we know how to do it, we've got more, you know, creative ways, we're an amazing team, I'm really living my purpose, I'm contributing to the country. All these sorts of thoughts would make me feel quite powerful and positive. And I'm really resilient, and I know I can do 10-hour days. And I can do these 10-hour days by doing this on the other 2 hours either side. And that's it. And I'm not going to do any more. Or, you know, good boundaries, good self-awareness.
So
Yeah.
part of the challenge, I think, that you know, has many of us have faced, certainly using technology, which for many, you know, we were thrust into. For you, it was part of your kind of everyday practice. And when we're trying to engage and you know, generate some energy with teams, you know, that's hugely challenging for people. So what tips have you got in terms of how can you run effective team meetings through technology such as Zoom or
Yeah.
Microsoft Teams or another platform?
Team meetings, Leatham, are my key pet hate, because there's so many organisations I go into that spend all day in back-to-back meetings, and I think it's the most common way for organizations to lose productivity, and that's across the board. But I think there's a whole, my course is a 6-week course, and there's a whole week on how to have efficient team meetings, because it's the fastest way to grab back loads more time. So there's a very specific way to do it, but one of the key things is to decide, what's the purpose of this meeting? Is it really that we're here to share information, or are we here to brainstorm a solution to a problem? In which case, put the question, not the topic. So don't have on your meeting agenda, IT program. Have how to get the IT program back on track, or whatever the actual question is that you're trying to answer as a team. So that's one tip. It should have something in there that's a verb as well. This is what we're doing. We're brainstorming, we're sharing information, we're resolving an issue. And then to have a timekeeper, to have a proper agenda, have everyone say, I think we need to talk on 5 minutes on this, 10 minutes on that, have a timekeeper, keep it moving. That actually adds to the energy in the room as well. It's a good way to say, right, come on guys, we've got 1 minute left on this topic. Are we happy to close it down? Or is this so big that we need to take another meeting on just this? You get clarity, you get rhythm, and you can maybe, instead of everyone organises a meeting for an hour or two, you might be able to get through that meeting in 25 minutes. The other thing is to make sure that you're in only the meetings that you're needed. So there's so many people in meetings that are just, they're copied in, they're added in. And if you're in a meeting, I just say to anyone, not just leaders, I say to anyone, if you're in a meeting that you're sidetracked doing emails on the side, or you're bored, or you're really tired, or you're irritated, that's your body giving you very good feedback that this is not the best use of your time. So listen to that and try and get out of those meetings, or just say, look, I'll come for the first 10 minutes, guys, because this is the bit I can help you with. Then I'm going to duck out. So that I think would, and the other thing about having high energy as a leader for your team, again, if you want high energy, you have to get yourself into a high energy state. So that's the state that you want to come on, happy, excited. Guys, do you know what? We've booked an hour for this meeting, but I reckon we can do it in 25 minutes. We've only got these 3 things to decide. Bosh, bosh, bosh. That's the state that you have to be in. If you come on really tired and like, oh God.
Yeah, I mean, they're great tips. And another subject, which will have to be for another day because we haven't got enough time, but yesterday I did my first hybrid meeting, and I just found that really challenging in terms of not just technology and having the right technology in there, within an organization, but you have the energy in the room plus what is happening out there in space, and trying to bring people together. Can people hear all of those kind of quite basic things, which then of course will start to drain you as the facilitator or you as the leader, and concentrating in two very different spaces, one which is very flat and one which is very peripheral.
Yes.
Yeah, and bringing all of that together. And it's certainly something in terms of coaching, developing people, that we need to put time, effort and energy into. And it's not going to be something that people can just easily step into and do quite seamlessly, even if it is in kind of quite short bursts. But I'll use those tips definitely from my personal point of view, because they're very, very good. Final thing coming up. Well, I've got 2 questions. One which has just come in, and I love this, so I'm going to ask it. What's your favorite coaching question?
What the question that I ask my leaders?
Yeah. Do you have a go-to question, or a question that always helps get people unstuck or something?
Yeah, I think when people are going round and round in churn, I think a great question is to say, can I just interrupt you? What do you want? That's such a powerful, simple question for anyone, because we are not often clear about what is it I actually want here. So that would be not necessarily my favorite, but a very, very useful one for anyone out there that wants to coach themselves or coach others.
Cool. It'll be good to hear from people out there as well in the world of PPMA land. What you uses your coaching questions that you find kind of generates some either good thinking, you know, or some really, really good action.
Mm.
And yeah, they're always good to share with people and fellow coaches. It's always good to find out what works and kind of sharing those
Yeah.
tips and techniques. And a final thing for us, and you might already have, you've given us some tips so far, but in terms of it going back to World Mental Health Day on Saturday, um, anything that you could share with us in terms of how to manage stress, particularly for the leaders? Any tips that you would give there?
Yeah. Just before I come on to that, I had one other thought about meetings, online meetings that I wanted
Yeah.
to share. Because in this meeting right now, there's only Sue, I think, that's live with a camera. And so I'm talking just to you and Sue. And I know other people are here and they're present and they're listening. But I think one of the key things that would make the difference is to ask everyone to keep their cameras on, maybe mute their microphones, but so that you can engage and, you know, I can see Sue, I can wave to her, you know, she can wave back, you know, there's a human there. Yeah. And that's the sort of one of the top tips that I would give people, to get everybody to keep their cameras switched on. So
Yeah, it's a good thing.
just going to the question about how to manage stress, this is the question of the 6 months that I've been asked. And I actually have created a 4-minute grounding audio that I just send by WhatsApp to my clients. And I just say, listen to this anytime. But anything like, you know, Budify apps or Calm or anything where you can click and do a 1 minute or a 10-minute meditation. Budify is brilliant. It's, you know, you can choose what situation you're in for what type of meditation you want. But really, the only way we can manage our stress is through our own bodies, because how we get stressed is we run thoughts in the mind. Mostly we don't know what's going to happen, and then the 10 scenarios of what might, but most of them not good. And the brain can't tell the difference between the fantasies that we're running and reality. Like, I'm just sat here today at my desk. If I start to run a fantasy that, you know, my mum might get really sick and da 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 da, my body, my brain sends messages to my body to start to mobilize and get adrenaline to because there's something dangerous coming up. So it's really about managing what thoughts am I running that's causing my stress, and not about saying don't run those thoughts and they're not true, but just to push them aside. And what I call starting a new thought box, which is any thought that makes you feel calm and good, just write it down and build that thought box, put a box around it, and go to those thoughts. I have some clients that have got this laminated, you know, and they keep it in their pocket all day. It's read those thoughts and breathe and just put a new reality into the system. And that's my best advice for stress.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and you know, it kind of connects with the daily mindfulness practice that we're offering to PPMA members. I'll send the link out to everybody again, because they're every weekday. I'm not saying that you don't need it Saturdays and Sundays. It's just I have to do other things on a Saturday and a Sunday. But it's every weekday at 8:30, and we're offering them free to PPMA members. So you're all very welcome to check into that. And it'd be great to see you. And thank you so much, Rebecca. Rebecca, just before you go, just share a little bit in terms of you're leading a coaching culture online course that starts, I think it's the 12th of October, isn't it?
Yes, next Monday. It's basically a course that is helping leaders shift their mindset so they can operate from a different level. It means that they can get the same results through their team or greater with less energy and less time. So getting your meetings sorted is one of the major modules, as I said, but also getting each of your team members highly motivated, highly engaged. Let them do all of the work, let them come up with all the ideas. And it's also helping leaders train to be coaches, not professional coaches. You know, we're not expecting leaders to be at the level that I'm at. I've been doing this for 20 years, you know, but it's about giving some of the coaching techniques to leaders so that they can have those coaching conversations with people. And they're very different to normal conversations where the leader might know what the person should do and jump in and tell them. That's a short-term fix, but it means the leader's always got to keep doing that and the person stays slightly disempowered. It's really about helping raise the level of work of all of your team, so you as a leader become less and less engaged in the do and more engaged in the strategy and clearing the decks for the team. You know, I talk about the role of a leader as an analogy for curling, you know, the sport on ice.
Yes.
So the leader's got to place the puck, you know, this is the goal, this is where we're all going for. Then the leader's got to motivate all of the members to push the stone in the right direction towards the puck. And then a major role of the leader is sweeping the ice, you know, as the stones move. And that's removing all the blocks. It might be a block in someone personally that they don't know what to do next, or they're tired, you know, it might be a block for them, which is a coaching block, but it might be looking at other things in the organization that are derailing your team. So it's having that big picture view. So it's something I'm such a nerd that I love. I've loved creating it. I love working with leaders on it. And how it came about, Leatham, is I'm working normally at the very, very top level of leadership globally, and that's very expensive. And people have often asked me, can you come in and coach lower and lower in the triangle? And the organization just can't justify my fees. So I thought, well, actually, I can just take all the lessons of coaching these top leaders, because they're dealing with all the same stuff. You know, they're just humans as well. And I can put this into a 6-week course that's, you know, the best of all of that knowledge. And it's not the same as having one-to-one coaching with me, I know, but it's a start. So it's highly experiential. People can bring their own stuff.
And it's a great thing. It's a great idea. And it's just reminded me of one of my favorite coaching questions, which I'll end on. But just to say a huge thanks to you, Rebecca, for joining us today, and also to Interplicity. There is going to be a 30% discount on the course that's being launched in October next week. So if you want to find more information about that, then check out our website, and we've got a link for it. And there'll also be a course in the spring, I think, which will dates will be shared once they've actually been finalized. And it's a fantastic thing, so check it out.
One more thing, the course that starts next Monday, you don't have to sign up before Monday. So if you are interested and you think, oh God, you know, I don't want to make the decision now, you can catch up. I think the closing date is something like the 22nd of October. So
okay, that's great. Yeah, we'll check that out and we'll get the dates on the website for you. And so thank you so much, and it's great to be able to introduce you to the PPMA community, and no doubt we'll have you back in the future, Rebecca, to share more. And on Friday of this week, we're going to be joined by the fantastic Catherine Waddington. Catherine is an academic, and she's going to be talking about hope with illusion. And one of the takeaways from conference this year was that sense of hope and joy. And Catherine is going to be talking about compassion and its significance to mental health. And that's in advance of World Mental Health Day on the 10th. And my question that I'm leaving you with, the coaching question. So in the post office, they've got something called the Dead Letters Office, where people send their letters who either have deceased or they've just got nowhere to go. So question I like to ask, and it picks up on Rebecca's dream of having a product to be able to share with more people about using her skills. What do you do with your dreams? And do you send them to the Dead Letters Office? And are other people's realities bearing down on you? Which is connected with that question. So what are your dreams, and do you send them to the Dead Letters Office, or are you going to do something about it, as Rebecca did, and bring her idea to life? And you can see her dream in reality if you check it out. Great to see you. Great to see everybody out there. See you soon. And for those who are listening on demand, fantastic. And there'll be more to offer later on. And check us out on Friday. Catch you soon. Bye bye, everyone.